Alrighty, peoples. You may sort of realise I'm a little bit brighter surroundings than usual. This is the house I look after during winter. Anyway, found out a bit more shit about my sidekick. Quite possibly on the crystal meth, it turns out. Here in Australia we call it ice. There's another guy who I've worked with. He's been there before I've been there. He started a few months before I come, and the long and short of it is that he spent 10 years on the crystal meth. Sort of started on basic speed, used to sort of work at night, and was in a certain job that, there's a number of dodgy characters, and a lot of them used to go partying after work, and he used to go along with them, and, sort of get a bit tired and worn out while he had a bit of speed, and it sort of led from speed to smoking crystal meth. So he got off it, he went through rehab, and he said, if it hadn't have been the support of my family, there would have been no hope for me. Unbelievably, his wife actually stayed with him through all of this. And I think he's got 4 kids as well. So anyways, he can tell you quite a bit about it. And intriguing thing that happened first day with this other character who claimed to have schizophrenia, claimed his brother was a crystal meth addict, and he claimed he was an engineer. Well, I don't believe he was. I believe it was something more along the lines of steel fabricator, or most likely, due to his large amount of experience with conveyor belts, he was probably a fitter and turner, because there's a lot of factories with conveyor systems, and fitter and turners always end up fixing conveyors most of the damn day, and that's a lot of their work, at least in this country. They're not so much in manufacturing in terms of machining parts, they're in manufacturing in terms of keeping the conveyor belts running. But he claimed that his brother was using his credentials on dating sites online. Now, he knew that I was sniffing around looking for girls who are willing to, basically be live models and test drive skirts and dresses that I make that are based on my super minimalistic patterns. But of course, I'm not going to go wearing that shit to see if it works, because I'm not a cross-dresser. And he knew that I was on dating sites looking for said girls, and he might have thought that somehow I'm going to see the boys, and he could pass it off as being his brother that's using his credentials, that's a crystal meth addict. But the big strange kicker was the first day I started with him, it was 18 degrees Celsius. Now, in Australian terms, that's fairly cool, especially having, been in days that are around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and then all of a sudden it drops to, 18, works out about, 65 Fahrenheit or something. And we'd gone from these days of 90 Fahrenheit to 65 Fahrenheit fairly quickly, and, we're still trying to adjust to it. And because it had only just started getting cold. Anyway, I come in, and he's there on the first day, and he turns the fucking fan on. Like, I've got these big ass fucking, they're fairly big, they're probably, 2.5 foot wide fans. There's 2 of them. one of them they fucked up the stand on. I think we've still got it, but the one I had over there had a stand. And I mean, I've been using it for warmer days in the previous couple of weeks, and it was still in the same spot, plugged in the same power point. And he turns the fucking thing on. And I didn't sort of realise because I went to go and get some tools, and I come back and I thought, what the fuck's this doing on? Turn it off. And 2 minutes later, he turns it back on again. Oh, mate, I feel the cold I don't feel the cold. He says, I'm Scottish descent. I was supposed to have grown up in Scotland. He was there till he was 10 years old or something. Plenty of other people we know have, me and my workmates have known people that have been, including one of my uncle's friends, been in England till they're about 10 years old and come over here. And most of them have still got a bit of an accent. This guy's supposed to be Scottish and come over when he's 10 years old. There wasn't one fucking skerrick of a Scottish accent. He may have been. He may have deliberately tried to adopt our accent. Some of them do that. Some of them just pick it up in due course. But there's people who, sort of at that point, they still have a bit of an accent. He didn't have any accent. But the strange thing was, as he's got this fan turned on, and I said, do we really need that on? He goes, oh, yeah, mate, I'm Scottish descent, so I've got thick blood, so I prefer the cold. I don't like any warmth. I love the cold. In fact, in the middle of winter, when it's like about 38 degrees Fahrenheit or something, I like to sleep with the window open. And it's because of my thick Scottish blood. And I thought, all right then. Well, thankfully I already had a jacket, so I put the jacket on and I managed to live with it. And he done this, a couple of days in a row. But this other guy who I've worked with has been on crystal meth. I never mentioned that to him until like 2 days ago. And he says to me, you know how heroin addicts, because we know a lot about those because we've had quite a run of those in the early thousands here, and I've seen this, particularly in Asian areas that I've gone into, they just have, they're pouring with sweat, it's fuck all, it's like 68 Fahrenheit or something like this, and the sweat's just pouring down their fucking face. And that's heroin. And this guy who's been through rehab and everything, the one who has been there longer than me, I mentioned this whole turn the fan thing on when it's fucking cold enough as it is to him, and he told me, I'm pretty certain that's something they do to hide getting the sweats. You guys in the States know more than I would. Do crystal meth users get the sweats? Start getting covered in sweat on cold days when they haven't had their hit, when they haven't had their fix? I've seen it in heroin addicts. Does it happen in crystal meth addicts? That's one question I want to ask. The second question I want to ask is, have you ever heard of this same stunt of trying to get even colder when it's fairly cold already in crystal meth addicts? And is it one of these tricks to try and hide the sweats by being so fucking cold that you're never going to even have the sweats? I don't know if that's how the sweats work when you're on drugs. I don't really know. But, yeah. Just some funny things. The first person who picked it up was the Indonesian guy who's basically training to be a doctor. And he said, I think he's on something. And sort of the rumours and well, not the rumours, but the analysis went from there, particularly from the other guy who's been on crystal meth and knows everything there is to know about it. I don't know that he was, that sure on the whole thing of having the sweats. But, yeah. Didn't have the full fucking bad teeth and all that shit, at least not yet. But I believe that's something that happens over time. That's something that happens later on. A lot of other funny things, you know, being in the military. Claimed to be schizophrenic, almost like as though if he was a bit strange and we just pass it off as schizophrenia. But the trouble is I've got an auntie who's schizophrenic and I know quite enough about it. And maybe he was using that trick so that if he had any weird behaviour, we could just say, oh, well, that was his schizophrenia acting up. But claimed a few things about the military. Oh, you know, I've been to Afghanistan, and he didn't know shit about guns, and he didn't know a lot of things that he should have known. And I could tell from relatives of mine who are in the military, they've got a certain attitude and a certain way about them. You know, there's no such thing as 7 o'clock. It's fucking 6:58 or 6:03 or, you know, something like that. It's bang. Everything is fucking precision with military people. He didn't have that precision. He didn't have that really defined sense of order and real organisation sense that you get with military people. You know, where everything's got to be neat and organised and boom, 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 structure. You know, he didn't have that. And he didn't know shit about guns. I know enough, and I can tell you he didn't know shit. And the other one was the Chinese wife he was supposed to have a platonic relationship with. And, oh, well, the father-in-law asked for a dowry. Oh, no. Nah. My uncle knew a lot of Chinese, and as you guys know, I've worked with and worked for Chinese, and there ain't no dairy in China. Another bit of bullshit. You just saw quite a number of bits of bullshit sort of coming up, and I really sort of wonder about it all. But anyway, throw your comments down below, and I'll probably have a little read and surmise on all this stuff. But we're pretty certain he was on the gear. Needless to say, he hasn't come back. You know, oh, well, the agency, the day hire, labour hire agency, whatever you want to call it, you know, is trying to get him there. Haven't heard shit. And quite frankly, I don't know if we need someone like that working there anyway. I was a bit concerned. We were starting to get flooded over with work, and it was just like, fuck, which is everything's running behind. Now we're starting to catch up a little bit. You know, we're starting to, I've just about got things under control. There's a hell of a lot of repairs I've got to do, but the main general cleaning of stock and re-putting it back into its appropriate places for the next customers to use, slash hire out, slash possibly buy, is going fairly all right. That's getting a lot more on track, but I was getting a bit panicky that we were running badly behind schedule, and I was getting quite worried. We seem to be fucking there running out of stock at work. Like it is, the amount of stuff we have is so fucking low, it's unbelievable. And I heard one of the main salesmen talking to someone, and it might be to try and instigate headquarters in Sydney to give us a bit more freaking stuff, because it is getting bloody ridiculous. And you know, I think it's getting to the point where there's people who want shit and we can't even give it to them because we don't even have enough. There's always these claims that, you know, like it's, as some of you guys know, it's a foreign-owned multinational. It's actually a European in the EU country. That's the, you know, where headquarters, international headquarters is in a particular EU country. And there's always claims that they are selling it faster than we can bring it over here. I find that hard to believe somehow. But anyway, I'm not in dire need of another sidekick right away. Seeing we're starting to get things curtailed, but honest to God, there's a lot of shit just being sort of half done and just dumped because we've been so rushed. And now I'm going to start to be able to sort things out within the next week or two. But anyway, that's my little intriguing story about my workmate, and I would appreciate your comments.